Welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 35.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Do you love old cars? Then go to carsyeah.com and get a free copy of the fantastic Filler Up book. It's a full-color ebook filled with fuel filler fun. Over 60 color photographs of vintage cars, plus inspirational quotes from some of the most famous automotive enthusiasts of all time. Simply go to carsyeah.com, click on the free book button on the homepage, download your free Filler Up book today on Cars Yeah. Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I am extremely excited to introduce my special guest today, Vincent Metais. Vincent, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
I am, Mark. Thank you for calling in.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here. Vincent is the president of Suixtil, and after spending 15 years focusing on the cultural and business operations in the Asia-Pacific marketplace, he set out on a new adventure. 6 years ago, Vincent relaunched Suixtil, a well-known clothing brand in Argentina during the 40s and 50s that tailored high-quality gentlemen's suits and racewear. Suixtil was worn by the famous Argentinian racers known as the Armada team. The drivers included Fangio, Campos, Gonzalez, and Marimon, who all wore Suixtil to victory. Vincent has brought this brand back to life, along with its history and focus on high quality for those who want to enjoy the best that life has to offer. So Vincent, I've told our listeners a little bit about you, so please take a moment and share some more about your history, your business, your interests, and of course your passion for automobiles.
Sure, it'll be a pleasure. First thing I'd like to add on to the introduction of Suixtil is that beyond the Argentinian Armada, the Suixtil uniforms ended up being worn by all the great champions from the period. And I guess it was in part because the clothing was made for races, and in part because the Argentinians who first brought it over were so successful and also so much fun to hang out with that everybody wanted to emulate them in some respect, and that's why we ended up being very universal at the track in the 50s and 60s, and we got great champions from almost any nationality you can think of, including Americans, sporting the brand, and that was part of the attraction for us, was that universal character that it had and the opportunity to bring back something that was so representative of a time period when racing was also the embodiment of the animal spirit that drives men to do crazy things, and that we thought had somehow disappeared in today's environment.
I've seen historic photographs of the likes of Moss and many others wearing that clothing, so that's spectacular. Vincent, as we start this journey here, we always start with a success quote. I'd like to have you share your success quote with our listeners, something that was instrumental in forming your success. It's a great way to get the inspirational tires turning here on Cars Yeah. So Vincent, take the wheel.
All right. I don't really have a success quote per se, to the extent that I feel there is no, success is not like a stage that you reach. It's more like an ongoing thing, and I feel that we keep on working at it all the time. And the thing that drives me is really I'm not sure who said this, but the saying that life is really like a track. There are no shortcuts, and I take that very personally, because every day I realize we have to go through the motions, and we have to put it in and fill up that tank to get it going. Does that work?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And perhaps you can share a little bit more about how you incorporate that success quote into your business. Now that you've brought this wonderful brand back to life, could you talk a little bit more about how you came up with the idea and the process? How does somebody take a brand that existed once, that was so famous and kind of died away, and come up with even the idea to, let's do this again?
Well, the idea was, I guess we all go through this, but we have these careers that drives us more than we drive them, and up to a point when you start, thinking, hey, am I going to have regrets at some point or another? And at that juncture, I guess you look back and you think, well, this is what I've done so far, and is this what I want to keep on doing, or are there other things around? I have had a very long passion for automobiles, going all the way back to my grandfather, who used to take me to secret journeys to auto museums, because my dad, who was a doctor, had a saint hatred for cars, because he was called normally late at night to take care of people that had terrible accidents, after drinking or stuff like that. So my grandfather, who had always had a great love for cars and had driven Bugattis with his brothers and all this, would take me to these places, and we would come back from these trips with big smiles on our face, and it was our little secret thing. And so that stayed with me. And when the opportunity came along, it happened because looking through books from the period, books like American Racing and things like this, you'd find all these great pictures that showed a spirit and an energy, and all these pictures you'd see Suixtil. And so there we started thinking, well, what is that? And looking it up, we had friends who did all the digging out. And when they came up with the concept, we thought, well, that'd be really interesting. And so we built a business plan around what could be done with this. And of course, it proved to be wrong the moment we printed it, because we launched in 2008 at the height of the financial crisis. And of course, then nobody was sort of waiting for the new thing, though we didn't think of ourselves as a new thing. But again, we stayed the course and remained undeterred. And it's been a lot of hard work, a lot of ups and downs, but it's been a lot of fun too. And the best part of it all has been all the people we've been able to meet through this adventure, and again, the emotions that the brand generates. And I'm sure you don't get much of this when you walk out of any clothing store today, but when we're at an event and we get to talk to people, and we've had some incredible experiences of people coming to us and saying, but I have a picture of Sterling with me wearing that shirt. And you go, oh, wow, tell me, And it's great because, these people travel back 50 years in the blink of an eye. And Sterling has been great for that too. And the other people we've been able to connect with, the former racers, have been great as well, because every time you bring it back, you can see the memories flooding back, and it feels like justification right there.
Oh, absolutely. And I love a lot of things about your story right there. One is being sneaking off to see cars with a family member, unbeknownst to your father, and can certainly understand his concerns about vehicles, being a doctor. And then taking the spirit of a brand and bringing it back, and especially during the height of the recent worldwide economic recessions that we've had to struggle through, is absolutely wonderful. And the first time I encountered your brand was at the races, the historic races, and I walked up and went, where have I seen this before? I scratched my head, and I was thinking and talking with one of your representatives. It all came flooding back, and I ran back and looked through some of my old pictures that were taken by some famous photographers and went, there it is. How spectacular. So I think what you're doing is really great, and especially fun for those of us who are into racing. And I love the way that you're bringing back the spirit, and also the part of regenerating your life, coming to a point in life where you're saying, there must be something more here. I'm a lot in the same boat with you there, Vincent, with this new venture with Cars Yeah. So we're alongside each other on this wonderful journey of life.
Well, I think, and it's not just us. I think a lot of people are trying to find something that's connecting you to something meaningful. And again, racing in the 50s and 60s was meaning by definition. At the same time as, because it was so charged with meaning, it became cool without even trying. And again, I keep being drawn back to this, The Right Stuff, the great book from Tom Wolfe, and how well it's portrayed the animal spirit of people from the time who were doing things that were just crazy. That anecdote from, I think it was Chuck Yeager, who was derided by his companions who said, these other guys are going to fly to the moon. Then they fly the monkey first, and everybody's making fun of the astronauts. And I think it was Yeager who said, yeah, but you see, the monkey doesn't know he's sitting on a bomb. And the races were the same exact thing, is the chances they took, and considering the rewards and all of this, the absence of reward rather, made it all the more spectacular, is that it really was a challenge against yourself, not everything else faded in comparison. And I love that, and I think we're all looking for what it is that we can do in today's day and age to gain that level of control and assurance with our own lives. And I think that's what we present, that's what we're trying to represent.
I think you're doing a great job. That's wonderful.
Thank you, Mark.
Could you share with us a story that instigated your passion for cars? Tell us about that pivotal moment in your life when you really knew you were a car guy.
You mean aside from my grandfather and all this? Well, I'll give you another example. Is Sybil and I, Sybil's my wife. We were looking for where we were going to travel the next summer, and we weren't married then, and so. We were having this discussion, and he was sort of coming to a list, and the list was growing bigger of all the places we wanted to see. So she's 26 at the time, and I'm 27, and we agree that this is not going to work on a 2 weeks vacation program thing, and we've got to do something bigger out of it. So we agreed that we were going to sell everything and start off on a journey. And because it sounded like a great journey, we would call it a honeymoon. And we started by driving 9 months across Africa. We bought a Strange Rover from 1984 and sort of did it up a little bit, and took it across to start in Senegal, and then in Mauritania, the alternator seized up, and it's 40 degrees C outside, and that's when you realize that this is going to have to work, because you're in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and there is nobody you can call, and this is you and the car, and now you really have to make it work. And that's when I realized that, hey, this has a taste of life that you've never tasted before. And the car stayed with us, and I sort of, we called it Victor back then, because he had a connection to victory somehow.
Absolutely.
We had a connection to victory, making it through Africa. It took us 9 months. Where it was an absolute blast, and yes, I guess we came out on the other side of the continent thinking, cars and us, we have a special way.
Wow, what a wonderful story, and what a wonderful adventure in life. That's spectacular.
Well, we've had and it continued after that. We hopped and traveled around Asia, and then we did the same thing in Australia, though Australia is probably a lot less adventurous. But we drove another 7,000 kilometers around Australia.
Wow.
The Datsun hatchback, and that was some fun too.
Sounds like it. So Vincent, what I want to do now is take a look at some of the roads you've driven down and really crawl under the hood and get our hands a little dirty. That's appropriate with the story you just told us driving across Africa.
Right.
Would you share with us a huge challenge or even a great failure that you've faced that really pushed you to a breaking point? And more importantly, how did you overcome that, and what did you learn from the experience?
Well, we had a tremendous challenge with Suixtil about 3 years ago, when the friend who had done all the research and the discovery about the brand decided that we weren't going in the same direction they wanted to go, and we faced that challenge then of, well, how are we going to reconcile this, or can it be reconciled? And we agreed that it wasn't going to be able to be reconciled, and we had to part ways. And at that point, we realized that on our own we weren't going to be able to pull through, and that's when we realized also that the strength of one's strength is always the friends that he has, and he can develop and maintain. And so we were very proud and happy to be able to count on our friends to help us pick up the stakes of our other friends, so that we can continue with the adventure. And that was a lesson to us, and an humbling one too, is that, for all the hard work we'd put in, at that point in time, hadn't we had friends with us, we wouldn't have been able to continue.
Wonderful. Vincent, let's shift gears here and go to the other end of the spectrum and share a story when you had an aha moment about your business, that time when you realized that your idea or concept was really going to make it and this could really be something. Tell us the steps you took to turn that aha moment into a success.
Well, every day is sort of an aha moment.
That's called life.
It's because I still have, and I guess, as an organization, we still have so many things that we want to bring forward and that we think will help us consolidate the base. But again, having feedback from people like Sterling Moss telling us, this is good, and having people like André Simon and Fran Gonzalez, whom you mentioned before, say we like what you do, and unfortunately, both have passed away now. But having been able to connect with people like this and get their sort of endorsement of the effort and the nature of it was really a comfort for us. Then again, it's only one side of the equation, and you don't get a sense that you will really make it until you meet with the audience at places like Pebble Beach or Goodwood Revival or Le Mans Classic, and see the fervor of the reaction that you get from people and how well it connects with the experiences that a lot of people who've been around or who are longing for something like this, how well it connects with them. And, again, how quickly we get past the closing and we get into stories. And I love that part, how we all have these great stories of, who was the greatest sportsman of them all and that kind of thing. In places like Scottsdale earlier this year, we had this conversation with lots of people who were telling us about Rush. I couldn't help but tell people, look, Rush is a great movie, but it's not really friendly people that you're meeting. And in fact, it's been drawn like this for a special purpose. But I was trying to put that in contrast with, what a real sportsman is. And you take the World Championship in 1958 in Porto, and Sterling Moss giving away his World Championship without even second guessing it, because it's the right thing to do. And he's got it all stitched up, but he gives away 7 points to Mike Hawthorne, who's been disqualified before, and says, you got to give him the points because I would have done the same thing in his place. And thereby he loses the World Championship 2 races further down. And he never calculated. He never thought about it twice because it was the right thing to do. I guess, this spirit is what has gotten lost once you've introduced vast amounts of sponsorship money and all the rest of it, I guess. Again, and that's the attraction for us, is that behavior that you could never call to a fault.
Wonderful story. Let's have a little fun here, Vincent. What was your first car? And can you tell us maybe a fun adventure or memory you have of that?
My first car. My first car was a Ford Taunus. It was on the verge of being a wreck at all times. I actually bought it for a leather jacket from a friend of mine. To tell you about how much of a car it was.
That was one heck of a jacket.
Oh, yeah. No, it wasn't one heck of a jacket. It was, one hell of a car. I spent most times fixing it because there was always something broken with it. Wouldn't start in the winter, wouldn't start in the summer. It was very temperamental, but I had a lot of fun with it. Did a lot of driving, including for work. I was working in public accounting back then, and when people saw me driving on the parking lot, they always wondered what the hell happened. But hey, it was a fun car, and it stayed with me for a while. I don't particularly regret losing it after a while because it needed to go. It had served all its purposes, and quite beyond that as well. So, but it was a fun car.
Yeah, it was time. Well, talking about letting things go, a little bit about seller's remorse. Is there a car that you had in your past that you sold that you really wish you had back?
Well, again, the car that we took across Africa certainly had a lot of sentimental value for us, even though it was a wrong car to do that journey. We did have a lot of regret letting it go, but, again, our journey had to continue, and it was always a plan that, come to Kenya, we would get rid of the car. And it was very hard for us to do, but it was one of these that we had to do.
Wonderful memories for sure.
Range Rover, when we finished the trip, it was always leaning on the left-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
And that's despite me changing the springs in Nigeria in unbelievable heat. And the moment I finished changing the fourth spring, the car just leans back on the left-hand side. And I'm thinking, God, no, this is just not happening.
Just the way it wanted to go.
Yes. So we had a good drive with it.
Sounds like it. Is there a current project that you're working on right now that really has you fired up and excited?
In terms of, you mean like a car project?
Oh, well, car or business.
Oh, because business, Suixtil is, it's a high-octane thing. And I'm always fired up about it because of all the things we want to do with it. And there are many facets of the business or the venture, rather than just the business side of it, that we'd like to bring forward. And it just takes us getting to scale first. And it's damning because you want it so bad and you have to wait for it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Almost like it's a children's dream that you just think, oh, it's so close, and yet I have to go on it for a little longer. But we've got some very, very exciting plans about it, yes.
Well, that's wonderful. I think clothing brands, if you think of some of the great clothing brands and you read stories about them, very similar, always on that cusp and then finally that breakthrough. So keep fighting. I have a feeling, hearing your spirit, that that's not a problem for you.
Well, we've been doing it for 6 years now, so hopefully it won't be.
Congratulations. If you were a car, Vincent, what car would you be and why?
That's an interesting question. You know, I'd like to be one of any of Fangio's car that he's taken to a world championship, just to know what it is to go beyond your limit so hard.
Mm.
You know, and I can think of, the Mercedes that he's taken there, the 250F at Nürburgring 57, any one of these, just to think about what it is to be taken so far beyond your limit by a guy who knows exactly what he does. To me, that'd be great. That'd be a great feeling.
I love that answer. That's great. Taken to the limits by a guy who knows what he's doing. That's great. So, Vincent, this is a fun part of our talk. I call it the last lap, and this is where I fire off a series of questions, and you give our listeners some very quick blips of the throttle answers. So, are you ready to go?
I'll try.
Okay. What is the best automotive advice you've ever received?
Take it to the limit one more time, but that's not from me. That's from the Eagles.
Well, that's okay. You can take that plan along with you wherever you go.
If that works.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they also done, my Maserati goes 185, but what's the next line? Lost my license, now
I can't drive. That's right.
That's maybe not so good advice,
maybe not. Especially, we talked about your teenage son. You don't want to be sharing those ideas with him.
Oh, hell no.
Could you share one of your personal habits that you believe contributes to your success?
I'd like to think that it's because I sleep so little, but it can't be right. It's maybe a lot of coffee helps, but I guess a lot of people have that habit, and that's made Starbucks quite a success.
It has. My son and I had a conversation the other night. He said, wouldn't it be great if you only had to sleep 2 hours? Think how much you could get done.
It's a never-growing game of anticipation. So, the less you sleep, the more you get done, the more you have to get done.
Yep. Do you have a resource that you could share with our listeners that you're really fond of? Maybe it's a website or a supplier or somebody.
Oh, I use lots of websites, and I find them great. MMR is a great resource for me. Mm-hmm. It's a Motorsport Marketing Directory or Resource Directory, MMR, yeah.
By the way, Peter said to say hello.
Oh, he did? Oh, wow. Here you go now.
Yep.
And he's a great friend, too.
Yeah.
And he's a really very passionate guy as well, and he puts a lot of heart into what he does. And I love the outcomes, and the newsletters always get me to chuckle. Once a week, I know I'm going to get a chuckle out of it.
Well, he's going to be on our show soon. Yeah.
Great. Please pass my regards to him. We Skype on regular intervals. But that's one great directory for me. And other than this, I receive a lot of newsletters. And yes, the Sports Car Digest one is also very good and very informative, and they usually come up with great galleries of pictures as well.
Great. Okay. Vincent, would you share a book with our listeners that you recently read that you really enjoyed?
A car-related book, I guess. The last one that made a good impression or great impression, was The Art of Racing in the Rain.
Oh, by Garth Stein.
Yeah, that was really wonderful. And again, I know it's a little mellow and over dramatic and all this, but I thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind being played the whole length of the book. That worked really well.
I thought so too. Yeah, it's great. I'm trying to get Garth on the show. So, Garth, if you're listening, give me a call. Well, you can find all these resources at carsyeah.com/Vincent Metais. And Vincent's last name is very unique, Matais. So just look that up at carsyeah.com. So, Vincent, now we're getting up to the checkered flag. And this last question can sometimes be a challenge for people. I like to call it a real doozy. If you could have only one collector car in your garage, something that you couldn't sell to buy other cars with, and money was no object, what would that car be? But more importantly, why did you choose it?
That's yeah, I'd go for Maserati 250F that Fangio drove at the ring in '57. That's because he was such a legendary race. The fact that he has a rotten pit stop and then he beats lap record after lap record. Because again, that is more than a car. This is this is the car that took him to his 5th World Championship. Over odds that were unbeatable, and it's just, to me, it becomes a testament almost, a testament to a man's talent taken well beyond its limits. And I love the whole way it couldn't be done, and it's just been done.
Sure. Yeah, that's a wonderful car. That would be spectacular to have, wouldn't it? And so before we end, I wanted to give you a chance to talk a little bit more about the brand Suixtil and some of the products and things that you're bringing back to life, because if any of our listeners out there haven't found you yet, and we'll be talking about how to find you in a minute, I'd like you have so much passion for what you're doing, maybe share with us a little bit about some of the products and things, because when I walked up to your booth in Monterey last year, and I'd seen your brand before that, but I hadn't actually touched the products. And once I got them in my hands, it was so exciting because I went, yes, this isn't just slapping an old logo on some stuff. This is real. Could you share a little bit more with our listeners about that?
It certainly has been again, going back to that old saying, there are no shortcuts. We thought it'd be a disservice to what we were trying to do to just slap an old logo on some poor threads. It'd be a short-term expedient, but it wouldn't carry us over the longer run. And we think we want to be in there for the long run, and there are no shortcuts, so we might as well just do it. The only way that's right is the right way. So we've been very particular about quality. We've been trying to use just the finest materials and use exacting quality standards to make sure that it meets people's expectations, especially because the scale of what we do is fairly small. We got to be priced in the upper range of people's expectations, and so we think it has to be fitting and great quality materials and come out looking nice so that people appreciate that it is a long-term effort, and we wouldn't want to disappoint them. I hope that you find that when you look up the clothing and when you meet us, we hope that you certainly will be convinced by that side of the effort as well.
I think they will be. What I want to make sure to let all the listeners know is we'll be posting the Suixtil website on the show notes page for this interview that we're having here today, so that you can find Suixtil, experience a bit of history and a bit of passion that Vincent has shared with us today. Vincent, you've taken us on a great ride, and I've really enjoyed your stories. It's been great to meet you. You're actually the first guest on Cars Yeah who's calling in from overseas. I think you're in Belgium today, is that right?
I'm in Belgium today, and we'll be in France at the end of the week, and going to Germany a week from now for Classic Days, and then coming over for Race Week in middle of August. So I look forward to that as well.
Yes, and any of you who are going to be at the Monterey Historics and Pebble Beach Concours and all the car fun, make sure you stop by. I think you'll have many booths set up there, won't you?
Well, we'll be in a few places indeed. We'll be in at the prehistoric in the bottom stand. We'll be at Automobilia, and then we'll be at the Retro Auto part of the concours. Yes.
Perfect.
So at least 3 places during race week, and we look forward to meeting as many passionate people as we can.
Of course. Well, I'll be there to shake your hand and say hello in person. Vincent, thanks for taking us on a great ride today. I really enjoyed hearing about how you brought back the Suixtil name. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. Please give us one parting piece of guidance before you drive off into the sunset in Fangio's old race car, and let our listeners know what's the best way for them to find out more about you and your brand, and then we'll say goodbye.
The best way would probably be to take a tour down on our historic picture gallery, and then take a look also at the Escuderia gallery, which is the team that we've reconstructed from people who enjoy the nature of our effort and the enthusiasm that we've put into it. And I think that'll probably give them a taste of what we're trying to build back and how they can be a part of it. And we look forward to meeting them there on the website or at any of the events that we attend. And again, thanks to you, Mark, for bringing us in contact with all of your listeners.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. And if you can give our listeners one parting piece of guidance before you drive off into the sunset.
Ride it like you stole it.
There you go.
It's ride it like you own it.
There you go.
Even better.
Even better. Listeners, you can find links to everything that Vincent has shared with us today at carsyeah.com/Vincent. Just go to his show notes page. We'll put links to everything up there, including the Suixtil website. And Vincent, I want to thank you for being so generous today with your time and calling in from overseas and your expertise. I know you fought a lot of traffic to get to this phone call, so thank you for that. Till we talk again, we'll see you down the road.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.